What's up, guys? I'm back. This is my second attempt at the FlySky telemetry. I decided to tap a small hole through the casing. North and south pole on the flywheel. We're going to get the best possible signal we can get at that distance anyway, without running into any potential problems. A bit of shoe goo. If you're going to do this, don't make the hole too big. You want it to kind of push through there, snug. And I threw a zip tie on there. The sensor itself, the tip of it is kind of pliable, but it does allow a bend, and it will hold the bend. So I kind of used that angle there to keep, to kick the tip of it down, so that it's getting, it's pointed right at the magnets. So again, that there is the sensor marked speed. The other one is going to be marked optical, and that would be for your miles per hour. The one marked speed is going to be for your RPMs. The optical sensor, I apologize, that's the same one I just had in my hand. The optical sensor is here. I'm going to be using this also. This is my second attempt at this sensor as far as location is concerned. And what I decided to do was mount it here. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that it doesn't get in the way of the brake cam and the lever there. But this dust cover is going to fit snug down on top of it. We're going to put a little shoe goo in there as well, just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And the back of the flywheel, the back of the spur gear, I've painted black. I scuffed it and put the reflective tape on it that they supply you with the transmitter. So hopefully this works. If it doesn't, I'm done with the actual miles per hour optical speed. I know the RPM is going to work, and I already know the temperature telemetry is working great. But like I said, this is my second attempt at the optical speed, and yeah, it's not super important. Honestly, it's kind of difficult to look down at the actual transmitter when the thing's, going however fast. You really don't want to take your eyes off of it. So stay tuned, guys. It's IT4S, and it was a good value, I think. You got everything you need for the money. And so yeah, my first go at it really wasn't successful, and this is a new engine. It's essentially not even broken in yet. I think I got to run it twice, once with the telemetry working, or at least all wired up, which was a task in and of itself, as far as like placement of the modules and just getting the coordinates entered into the receiver. As far as the optical speed is concerned, you need to take a measurement, and I'll go over that in a minute. But one of the things I wanted to touch on, and a couple guys had asked me about this, because I know some people are running the Futaba telemetry, and some are using the FlySky. So my first go at it, I wanted to run all of the telemetry, and I didn't realize that I didn't need the voltage telemetry. The voltage is, as far as your battery pack is concerned, is picked up through the receiver and sent back to the transmitter. You don't need an actual module for it. So I eliminated that one, and of course, if you've seen the previous videos, I've changed the way it's wired up and the placement. And for a few reasons. My first go at the optical speed, which is going to be the miles per hour, I went ahead and used the back of the wheel, and initially with the reflective tape just attached to the rim, it wasn't getting a good readout. I think it was having issues. The rim itself is kind of wobbly, and there's a lot of play in there, and it wasn't getting a good readout. So I hoped maybe that it was just that, and not the telemetry itself just being kind of crappy. So what I did was I decided to make a little, this is the top to an Armorall can, and I cut the center out as big as I needed it for the wheel hex to sit right in there, and this to bolt right to the back of the wheel. I painted it flat black, put the reflective tape on there. I ended up using only 3 of the holes that I made, And I kept the sensor itself mounted in the same spot, which was basically just along this ridge line here in the hub, pointed at the back of the wheel. And in theory, it seemed like it was going to work, but again, I got a crazy reading. It would jump from 20 miles an hour to 2 miles an hour to 200 miles an hour. So it was all over the place. I also had the RPM sensor. The only thing that stayed in its original location is the temperature sensor, and that, sorry, I'm all over the place here. That is just, it's simple. It's just wedged up in there and zip tied to make sure it doesn't go anywhere, and you can tug on that, it's not coming out, and I get a great temp reading back to the transmitter. So that's the only thing that stayed in its original location from when I my first attempt at this telemetry. Initially, I had the RPM speed sensor down in this wedge between this motor mount here, and this isn't the factory motor mount. If you guys are running a Baja setup, this is kind of a two-pronged approach at a motor mount, or a dual mount motor mount, I guess is what you call it. The factory one just kind of runs from here to here. So I had it wedged between there because when the flywheel comes around, that location right there is the closest spot in the casing that as far as the flywheel being in there, it's the closest possible spot right there, and it was actually reading through the casing. But I noticed it was one of the times that I ran it, I noticed I was only getting about 13,000 on the transmitter, at wide open throttle. And you guys know these engines, especially this one, they rev much higher than that. So who knows? Maybe I was still in the process of tuning it. I still am. Maybe that was an issue. But I just felt like maybe it wasn't accurate. And so what I did was tapped a small hole here. I ran the sensor through it, put a little bit of shoe glue on there and a zip tie just for, just to make sure it's not going anywhere. I stripped out one of the bolts, so I have to replace it. The SCZ, or the bolts that SCZ gave me, are crap. They're absolute crap. They're all different sizes. I mean, it's just really poor quality. As far as these SCZ engines are concerned, you're definitely not, you're getting a kick-ass little engine, but you're not getting the quality and the craftsmanship that you'd get from like an OBR, or or even a just a stock Zenoa, or a brand name engine. So yeah, just think about that before you buy something like this. And I knew what I was getting anyway. I wasn't stupid. I seen the videos. I knew the kind of craftsmanship you get. But yeah. So inside here, I have the actual end of this bent because it's pliable. I have it bent and pointing down directly at the flywheel. And so when the north and south pole magnets come around, it's about this far from it. So, and I did a quick, spin the wheels kind of deal, and I got a reading on the transmitter that seemed like it was going to be accurate. So that's good. So yeah, that's the telemetry. Oh, I apologize. The optical speed, I changed the location, of course. The front tire thing didn't work. It is now here. The back of the brake dust cover, because a lot of people tend to use their diff cups. I noticed that's the location in the stock Losi or the King Motor or Roven. They have a little tiny, if you look next to, I'd show you on mine, but the body's on it. Actually, no, wait, the body's not mounted, so check it out. Oh, I apologize, it is. I have a bungee cord holding it on that stand, so the baby couldn't knock it over. Yeah. The optical speed sensor is normally used on or set up to be used on a diff. The actual diff cup. They'll put the reflective tape on it and mount it so it's pointing at it, and there you go. But of course, this rig, you don't have that option. So the back of the spur gear was my next best thing. And I just saw another video with a guy, I happened to be researching telemetry, and I found a Baja video of a guy running telemetry, and this is actually what he did. It's kind of ironic because I didn't necessarily copy his idea. I came up with this, I don't know, a few months back, and I'm just now getting around to it, but he had the same idea, and so I'm hopeful that it's going to work. I didn't get to see if his works, but that was, he made a quick video of where he mounted it and how he was going to mount it. All I did was Dremel out the back of the dust cover, and I glued it in there so that it's flush with the other side of the dust cover's face. Put a little shoe glue in there for some added hold, and it doesn't seem like it's going to interfere with the brake lever or the cam. On the back of the spur, I have the reflective tape, of course, and this is a hostile spur, so I had to paint it flat black. So yeah, that's what I'm working with, and we're going to see how that works. Of course, I have to find a center point and roll the wheels forward to that center point until it comes back to that center point. And while I'm rolling the wheels, I have to have something on the ground so that I can measure how far it rolled, and that is the measurement that I'm going to put into the speed and distance setting inside the transmitter. So that should work. Again, in theory. And if it doesn't work, I'm just going to leave the, if none of this stuff works, then I'm just going to remove it all. Well, I shouldn't say that. We know that the RPM works, and we know that the temp sensor works. If the optical speed thing doesn't work, I'll just pull it out of there. It's a bad location anyway. These all have to piggyback, and this is the best I could come up with as far as the location and wiring. This already took a beating heat-wise when it was mounted here. The back of it's all warped, the back of the little casing. And so this, of course, is not a great location, but it's all I could do. That's the best I could do with what I had. And I may change the pipe I have on here. I'm running that cheap clone Dominator rare pipe thing. I may run an Olamat pipe that comes out here and runs up the front, kind of shoots across here. Once I spend a little bit more money on, or decide I'm going to spend a little bit more money on this thing. And if I do, of course, I'll maybe buy some header wrap or some heat wrap for it. Who knows? Maybe I'll buy some for the cheap clone pipe just to protect this if it does actually work. Because it would be pretty cool to have miles per hour, I think. But I'm kind of cheesy like that, so yeah, I think she's ready to rock and roll. All I need to do is Dremel out the exhaust port better, because when I initially Dremeled my what I decided to Dremel was the cooling spacer as opposed to the actual pipe, so that I could use that as kind of an in-between to allow it to go from this size port to the pipe, you know what I mean, to the actual pipe size port. Because again, this the SCZ has got a bigger port than your standard two-stroke RC engine. And I did a crappy job on it because I was in a rush and I wanted to see this thing run. I'm not even going to show you how crappy of a job I did, but basically I just chamfered the edge of the cooling port in order to kind of make up the allow the size to go from big to to smaller. But I'm going to do a better job, and I'm going to get some videos of this bad Larry, and we're going to beat the shit out of it, because that's what we do. I do need some new tires. Those things are looking pretty pathetic. They've seen too much pavement. The fronts are in decent condition, but I'll buy a set of rears off of AliExpress for, some cheapies. That's all we need. Got these two sitting over here looking pretty. Again, I can't wait to get involved with this thing and pull it apart, basically. It's quite a machine. Every time I look at it, I think to myself, holy shit, that thing is big. But yeah, and I ordered a cheap Super Easy, is what it says on the side of it, which is so cheesy. But it says Super Easy pull start. It's the Rovin pull start. It's kind of like big and gaudy and along the same lines as all the other easy pull starts. But from what I understand, it kind of has a one-way bearing in there. It doesn't require you to change the flywheel to the processed one. The little dog bone setup just bolts in there with an extension. And so that's one of the reasons why I got it, because I'm going to put it on the Zenoa engine, the G320. The Zenoa pull start is already starting to slip. So I'm going to put it on there. They promised me that it wasn't going to interfere with me with my rear chassis brace. You know how your pull start kind of hits it at the bottom? Well, they promised me that's not going to be an issue. And then somebody chimed in that doesn't work at Rovin and said that there's two different, that there's two different versions. And then Rovin supported that answer or wasn't in support of that answer. So I'm like, why didn't you guys tell me that? I just ordered it. So I contacted the seller on AliExpress and asked them, please make sure that it fits because it's Roven. I said a Roven LT, and they said, oh yeah, it fits. Yeah, sure it does. So we'll see when it gets here next year. So yeah, I'm happy. My garage is clean. Check this out. I mean, I got floor space here, and for somebody that's OCD like me, this is a pretty big deal. You know, I build 125th models too. I don't know if you guys are into those, but I've got quite a collection. Some of them are up north with a good friend. When I moved down here, I didn't end up taking them all with me. Ah, the Roven and the King motor engines. See, this is the King motor easy pull start setup. I left it on there. And of course, I could just transfer that to the Zenoa and could have saved myself $20 whole, but I didn't want to remove the flywheel on the Zenoa, and I don't even know if this flywheel is the same as the Zenoa. I'm sure it's a cheaper flywheel, but as far as size and things like that, I just don't know. So I'd rather leave that Zenoa in as many pieces as it came for as long as possible. So yeah, I'd like to get those engines running and maybe sell them. I don't know. They're both good engines internally through the exhaust and the intake port. They look really clean and unused. Which, to be honest, the King motor's got maybe 6 tanks on it, and the Roven, I don't know, maybe 8. Yeah, somewhere around there. I even got hula dancers, twins. Look at this. It's dancing in the beautiful Florida sunlight. I got all my paint put away finally. My RC paint, I got a pathetically small collection, but it's getting there. Because I use mostly airbrush paint, and I keep all that stuff in the house just because of the heat. Normally I store my paint in the house, but I just said screw it. I'll just leave it out here and I'll shake it every once in a while and hope for the best. So yeah, that's about it, guys. I gotta paint some letters for the kids.